Welcome, everyone. It's Coach Rach. It's a pleasure to have your presence with me this evening. Last week, I had spoke shortly on some transitions of change that my life has been through in the last 6 to 8 months. And then I took that conversation to my weekly Wisdom Wednesday virtual group where we talk weekly about various topics, themes, life actually. So at this particular event in a local community, I spoke on grief, mental health, and breaking generational trauma. The patterns that are created within the folds of a family last longer than one actually realizes. That conversation definitely wasn't about blame. It was truly about understanding. Mental health struggles rarely begin in the moment the symptom is appearing. They often begin years earlier in silence, abandonment, survival, addiction, neglect, grief, emotional disconnection. And so these patterns that are passed quietly through our generations definitely impact each of us. So imagine an estranged mother struggling with a severe gambling addiction, and a woman whose own pain may never ever have been named, witnessed, or healed. So now imagine the adult daughter, a grief educator becoming the one who rescues the very person who once abandoned her. Not because the pain doesn't matter, but because somewhere along the way she has chose awareness over repetition. That is where healing begins. And so I spoke gently as I revealed that even though I serve and assist in the capacity that I choose to in my practice, I also have transitions in my own personal life that definitely can be supported in a conversation of grief, mental health, and how do we support one another in communities overcoming these generational collective patterns. So, a reflection moment. What if the person carrying the most wisdom is the one who actually had to survive the most amount of pain? Mental health isn't a weakness. Not at all. Addiction is not born in isolation. Emotional dysregulation often begins in the nervous system shaped by the trauma, the fear, the grief, the instability, and those unmet emotional needs. Many of us adults are actually walking around managing symptoms that actually, belong to unprocessed experiences from decades earlier. Tonight is definitely about recognizing what was inherited, what was normalized, what was never spoken, and what truly can stop with us. So, in my practice, I talk a lot about, staking it in the ground. It's just a term I use. Then it stops here. In your mind, you see yourself perhaps actually doing that. And maybe we do. I spend a lot of time walking in nature, supporting the holistic well-being of who I am. Symptoms are often survival responses. And so anxiety, that overfunctioning, addictions, emotional shutdown, hyper independence. And here's one that I often come across: people pleasing. These are very, very often intelligent survival strategies developed in unsafe emotional environments. Absolutely. But then, the question can shift from what's wrong with me, because I too walked and walked a pretty mile trying to understand what was wrong with me, to it gently began to blossom into what happened to me. I spent years trying to understand why my anger was much larger than me. And then it eventually became, what can heal through me? Right? How can I show this? What can heal through me? So, this estrangement carries invisible grief, right? Estrangement is grief, but it's rarely acknowledged publicly. What are we grieving? We're grieving the parent we needed, the childhood we absolutely deserved, the conversations that maybe never ever got had, and the safety that truly never existed, because how could it? And sometimes life creates these impossible moments where the child absolutely becomes the caregiver. In this experience, that experience can certainly awaken compassion, resentment, confusion, empathy, exhaustion. I can admit going through a plethora of emotional responses to the experience of moving through this experience with my mom. But all of it's valid for her and for me. Generational trauma can only be healed if we're willing to talk and touch those energy points of feelings and emotions that never maybe got to be expressed. Certainly not telling anyone how to live their life or manage what their possible estrangement looks like, but just know that you are experiencing forms of grief within that experience. And advocacy, I love this word. Advocacy can change generations. The daughter in this story did more than rescue her mom physically. That is very true. I interrupted a cycle because it becomes more about emotional awareness, being trauma informed, willing to speak, right? Willing to speak the truth, to support that truth, to seek any support, willing to name the grief instead of burying it. Advocacy is not only fighting the systems that have been created, sometimes like advocacy maybe looks like this. I talked about this lots last night. This pain will not continue through me unchecked. Nope. If we're going to do the work, let's feel it, let's heal it, let's talk about it, let's connect to it, and then let's evolve it. So healing doesn't mean excusing the harm. No. That's not what I'm saying. Not at all. However, understanding that someone's trauma does not erase the impact of our choices, nor theirs. Okay? Compassion and boundaries can exist together. Not going to be easy. No. However, you can. You can love someone, you can grieve someone, you can help someone, and still protect yourself. So, emotional maturity, nervous system healing, breaking generational trauma. All of this is what I've experienced definitely over the last few months. My life drastically changed. And so coming to an awareness within that change had to be supported. So I had to look at, okay, what emotional patterns are in my family before I was born, perhaps? Where did this come from? What survival role did I adopt as a child, perhaps, to move through it? What grief in my life has never really truly been witnessed? This is all such vital and important experiences and connections to make. Therefore, healing generational trauma is sacred work, definitely. And it's often just taking that pause, reflecting, and choosing differently. It's not perfect, but it's conscious. The goal is not to become untouched by this pain, absolutely not. Profound experiences can be created within that awareness. The goal is to stop the pain from becoming the identity, the inheritance, and your destiny. So I invite you to remember, recall a time, right? And give that moment some compassion and love that perhaps wasn't afforded in the moment it was happening. I invite you to join us. Wisdom Wednesdays. We gather at 6:30. It's a virtual space. I have a theme weekly. I have a talk, and it's just about bringing community together and really connecting from that heart center to support the transitions of change, because we want the pattern to end here. We want to be able to have conscious communities that are connected. This is where true, authentic living can occur. So it begins with honesty, with support, with advocacy, while being witnessed, moving through transitions of change. So I hope to see you there. Coach Rach, thanks so much. Have a great night. Bye.